So we'll take astrology as our starting point so that through the lens of astrology, we can really remember our seasonal and cyclical wisdom and the cyclical seasonal wisdom of the earth, and become attuned to this new vision of the future and what our place in it is. We introduce the art of circle as this powerful means of coming together as women, in which we all have equal voice and shared power. And each of us receives this beautiful opportunity to be witnessed in our uniqueness and in our wholeness. Hey, welcome to the Mage Sisters Venus Blueprint Astrology for the upcoming solar North Node eclipse taking place on April 8th as our powerful new moon in Aries. Whew, I'm Stella Rae, and this is my sister, Alicia Love, and we are calling in a sisterhood to circle with us this Wednesday, April 3rd, where we are hosting our newly formed online Venus Circle. We meet every other Wednesday in Circle to bring the Venus cycle to the forefront of feminine consciousness as a new feminine rite of passage, particularly for women navigating the autumn season of our lives, initiated at 40 with the auspicious 5th Venus return. Yes. We teach the Venus blueprint as the foundational initiatory blueprint for women to step into their particular embodiment and expression of a new feminine consciousness, being seated at this time and for this time, as we together redefine what it means to be alive and consciously co-create the kind of world we intend to live in and to leave behind. We believe that as women in these perimenopause powerful years, we are uniquely positioned between worlds, that it is essential that we do the soul retrieval work on one hand, and that we're also stepping towards something fresh, divinely inspired on the other. So this is our journey of past and future. This is the bridging of our ancient women's mysteries with the future of the feminine that we are still dreaming up together. And we believe this journey is one that women can only take together.
Together.
Yes, that our power must be shared and our future must be co-created.
Yeah.
So we invite you to join our membership community where the focus is on this redefinition of perimenopause as a unique space in which women can step forward into our new wisdom, our magic, our purpose at around this age of 40 and beyond. And we can join together in this new shared female rite of passage.
Yes, calling in the sisterhood, welcoming the magic of the sisterhood.
So we'll take astrology as our starting point so that through the lens of astrology, we can really remember our seasonal and cyclical wisdom and the cyclical seasonal wisdom of the earth, and become attuned to this new vision of the future and what our place in it is. We introduce the art of circle as this powerful means of coming together as women, in which we all have equal voice and shared power. And each of us receives this beautiful opportunity to be witnessed in our uniqueness and in our wholeness. So we really value your support and your comments and your own personal experience. We'd love to hear how you are experiencing the energies of these powerful times. And if you too are feeling this call, this pull to define new female rites of passage for ourselves. So if you feel called, we'll put a link to register and join our upcoming circle. And your first circle with us is free. So come and circle with us. Come
Join
check
us.
this out. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
powerful. And this is a huge, huge week. So we are in this amazing, huge energy of the eclipse portal. Alicia, tell us what's going on here. What makes this an eclipse season and what's happening energetically with an eclipse portal and season?
Yes, thank you, Stella Rae. It's such a pleasure and an honor to get to be in this sisterhood and collaborate with this beautiful woman here beside me. Um,
Likewise.
and that's what this Libra axis is about, is our relationships with each other and our autonomous, like strong. An eclipse season happens when you have the ecliptic of the sun and the ecliptic of the moon cross points, and they're always opposite of each other on the astrological wheel. So our first lunar eclipse, which we made a video for last week, was in Libra, and it was the full moon eclipsed by the shadow of the earth. And so this is the shadow of Libra. What is it that we are seeing within ourselves that are not functioning to keep us safe and healthy and balanced anymore? Libra is about balance and about togetherness and relationships. So what are we releasing and letting go of? And that's what the full moon is like, shining a light on what is, I'm going to use the word dysfunctional, like not functioning for our highest best anymore. And that could be the patterns from our childhood or our relationship patterns with our partners. And you might notice it's more than just your, home live-in love relationship partner. It's also business partnerships and, best friends. And you might even notice with your children. So just paying attention to the patterns of that end of the spectrum. And then the solar eclipse that we're going to get this totality across North America. Everyone's very excited about it. And it's in Aries. And we're definitely moving towards this independence and autonomy. We use the word sovereignty a lot because this is the I am energy. Aries begins us in the new cycle. So the sun is in Aries, and the sun is going to be eclipsed by the moon from the perspective of Earth with the new moon in Aries on April 8th. April. Yeah, that's right.
Yep. Yep.
Yep, right. We're
That's
almost
it.
there. So
Yep.
the portal of the 2 weeks between that full moon and the new moon, which create those eclipses on this nodal axis, are the energies that we're just swimming around in here. And we'll talk a lot about the swimming around because there's a lot of Pisces energy in the chart right now. And I think that's everything I wanted to say about those two, that axis, because we're leaving behind the dysfunctions of relationship and really claiming where we are good and healthy in that, with also supporting ourselves to be like, I take care of myself so that I can give and be of service to others. And that's the ideal balance, is between self and other. And that's really what we're working with right now.
Yeah. And it's also so perfect because we are in the Venus and Leo cycle where we're also working that edge of autonomy and sovereignty and all of those good things. So, yes. So,
Yeah.
speaking of the Venus cycle, just to highlight what we're going to do in the video and some of what we hope to just bring to the feminine consciousness around the Venus cycle, we're going to talk about some fundamentals of what this Venus blueprint is. We are going to talk about Venus's current position in Pisces, all that swimming around energy you mentioned. and the significance of her moving into Aries, along with major planets, Saturn and Neptune, which have also been in Pisces and are moving their way also into Aries. So this big shift that's happening. We're going to talk about the big event of Venus descending through her final 8th gate before she disappears from view, where she's been in our morning sky, and where she'll join with the sun in what's called the underworld. So she's going into this death and rebirth experience, and how all of that is intersecting so beautifully with our current seasonal cycle, what we're really seeding with this big, super new moon eclipse. And yeah, so I'll think, Alicia, I want to pass it back to you to let's talk about what are some of those fundamentals of the Venus blueprint, and what does it even mean when we talk about that Venus is passing through these particular gates and that she's now at that 8th gate.
Yes. So as we're making this video, she's still in the root, the 7th gate. And there are 7 gates to the underworld. And this is the ancient Sumerian story from over 5,000 years ago, the very first goddess story we have written down about Inanna. And they're using the symbol of Venus to describe the heroine's journey, which is an inward self-discovery journey. And so we've all been on the self-discovery journey through the Leo cycle, figuring out how to be more in our leadership from our heart center, and playful and kind and joyful around these big energies. So we've been in the root, and Venus is currently in Pisces. And then we're going to step into this final gate. And as Inanna does this descent down to the underworld, she takes off a layer of clothing for each gate, which represents a different chakra. And when we get to the 8th gate, this is the final, like you are choosing to fully surrender, right? And then we're going to move, then Venus is going to go into Aries, and it's going to be a go time for what really we need to focus on. So Venus will be in the underworld then until June, and she'll rise as the evening star. And we'll get to reclaim at each gate all of those energies that we are bringing into our highest alignment for this journey, because it's a continuing cyclical and spiraling journey within. I know you want to talk more about the 8th gate, so I want to pass it back to you.
You know I do. You know I love that 8th gate.
Yes. Oh, you
But I love everything you're saying about, yeah, just how we keep spiraling and we keep going through this deconstruction of the feminine and then building it back up in the ascent journey. So I love this as the blueprint that we are going to share and that we get to join in together as the feminine consciousness, which is so beautiful. So yes, but before we get to the 8th gate, I do want to say too a little bit about how Venus is joining or has already joined with Saturn, and that happened March 23rd. So right before that big lunar south node eclipse, she met with Saturn. And I feel what she's doing with Saturn, or what Saturn can do, is to bring in that spiritual maturity and to bring in our grounding to work with these big energies in our everyday life and in our everyday world, and to really think about how that impacts our children and what we're leaving behind us. This is resonant with Capricorn energy, and we just came out of last cycle, this Capricorn cycle, where Venus went through this process of deconstructing around the old version of our spiritual authority, our spiritual lineage, our disconnection from that, our disconnection from the land, from the grandmother energy, from our eldership and our spiritual wisdom. So as we ascended through that Capricorn cycle, we were able, or we had the opportunity to gather some of that spiritual maturity back into ourselves, the soul retrieval part of the journey. So I'm feeling as Venus moves or has met with Saturn on her way to Neptune, it's like these little points of contact, remembering the wisdom of the Capricorn cycle, and then coming in to meet with Neptune, which, as I was looking at this, had the realization that this is the last time that Venus will meet with Neptune in Pisces for our lifetime, which is a pretty big deal. You know, that's saying something to us. And Venus, or Neptune rather, has been in Pisces for the last 14 years. So it's been a lot of the spiritual atmosphere that we've been in for a decade or so. And that's really going to shift when Neptune moves into Aries. And that's going to happen in 2026, when the final move into Aries, and we'll be there until 2039. So really is going to change the face of, I think, how we experience spirituality and and it'll be interesting to see how Venus is going to dance with this energy. And I feel like she's pointing us towards this big last meeting in Pisces and then shift into Aries, which is one of the most dramatic shifts of, right, the zodiac from Pisces to Aries. And I know you want to talk about that that big shift. So just to wrap that part up, Neptune pointing also towards our next Venus cycle, in which Venus is moving into a Pisces overstory. So I find it interesting that with this Saturn Neptune, we're bringing together our past Capricorn cycle, looking at this current Venus shift from Pisces to Aries. And then in our next cycle, we're really going to get to like bring back and make sure that we fully integrate all the Pisces energy before we really fully charge into Aries. So yeah, do you want to say something about that Aries and Pisces dynamic and difference and contrast between those energies with
I
Venus?
like what you said about all of these Venus conjunctions through Pisces with these larger outer planets are giving us these like checkpoints, or almost like a threshold to cross over into the next energy cycle. And that's really what we're tracking, are these energy cycles and how it feels. And Neptune is ruled by Pisces. So this has been a big energy for us for a long time. And when Venus moved into Pisces, I could feel that really mystical connection to the spirit realm and the energy of Pisces, and how Venus is in this Pisces energy. We might feel that like formlessness and the sensitivity, because Pisces really does connect to her feelings, and there's a lot of compassion for Pisces energy, and there's that empathic wisdom, the transpersonal soul wisdom, and Pisces hungers for these altered states of consciousness where we can feel like we're in that spirit of the oneness and unity with all and selfless service. And that's this mystic archetype of Pisces. And it's very different from the hard, fast shift into the warrior goddess. She's just like, Aries is the I am energy. She initiates. I always call anything Aries the fire starter. And so with this solar eclipse in Aries, it's going to start something. We are starting something. And as Venus enters into Aries, bringing all of that wisdom, I look at it like Aries is what we believe in. It's what we're passionate for. It's that mission, and we're willing to take action. And when Venus is in Aries, watch out. She's going to get some stuff done. She's passionate and She'll literally go to battle for what she believes.
Fierce.
Yes, that fierceness. I love it. And she knows herself. And I think that that's where Venus and Pisces might feel like, I don't know, I'm part of everything. Like you just get this really, like we said, swimming in the waters of it. And then when we shift into this like clarity, it's gonna feel pretty awesome, I think. I'm excited for this shift and all the actions that we're gonna feel empowered to take. And it's gonna feel very different.
Yes, I think so too. And we're getting this big taste of it because when Venus moves into Aries, that happens just before this eighth gate. And then she's in Aries when we're moving through the solar eclipse. And so we're going to get this taste of what does it feel like to move through the eighth gate as the flavor of Venus and Aries. And I know that I think that I said, but just to say again, if I didn't, that Saturn and Neptune, as they move into Aries, are going to make this big conjunction at 0 degrees Aries. And
Mm,
that is like coming in with a bang. So that feels like a moment that seeds so much power and potential and expression of this solar feminine energy in Venus. So that's not until 2026. So we're just getting like this initial taste and the seeding of that, the power of that. But I think that's going to carry us. And it's, the eclipse portal has that potential too, to seed something way into the future. So I think there's something so powerful that we're seeding in Aries. And yeah, I'm super excited about that fierceness too.
yeah.
And so when we do talk about the eighth gate, maybe we should talk about that a little bit more.
What is that
And
going to feel like?
what is that going to feel like? And how do we ceremonially approach that? How do we work with it?
I
And
Yeah, I think leaving
yeah,
the root chakra, I always notice when we shift to the new gate, 3 or 4 or 5 days before, which we're kind of in right now, right? That, and that's the other thing I wanted to say is when we talk about the Venus blueprint, the the lunar conjunction with Venus is what creates the gate, right? And the moon is waning down to becoming new, and Venus meets the moon in the morning star part of the cycle during that final release of the lunar cycle of that 28 days. It's right before she resets as a new moon. And that'll happen on an eclipse, right? So she'll do that. And this days leading up to that, we're going to feel so solid in our root and safe with our trust and the structure of our lives. And you were talking about the Saturn energy, bringing the structure in. And so, really, what we have an opportunity right now is to feel our root as safe and connected to the earth and ourselves. And that's down at the base of your energy, pillar. And then when we dive down and in even farther than the root, it's a full surrender, almost an out of body experience, because that's what death is. It's a release of the body and it's a complete surrender. So if we can fully surrender going into this new moon solar eclipse, surrender what we thought we knew, surrender any attachments that we have that feel, I mean, it's going to be Aries stuff. So whatever is not feeling really clear, if you're like, oh, like half-assing it, or maybe one toe is in, but you're just not fully all in on certain things, it might be time to cut the fat and be like, all right, this is not what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing, and really focus. I know that's the energy I'm already feeling with our
yeah,
Venus Blueprint membership and being able to create a space for women to gather and really feel these energies in our bodies. So how do you think the eighth gate's going to feel to you?
Oh, well, I loved everything you just said, especially bringing in like anything that's not aligned with, yeah, like your mission in life. Um, Maybe it's time that that can go. It needs to get surrendered. I love that. Um, I've been thinking about the eighth gate as, um, you know, what's beyond, like you said, what's beyond the root, like in the root and in letting go of our, it's almost a letting go of our identity in the root where we surrender anything that's left, that's in the way of us knowing exactly who we are in our core and in our fundamental identity. And I think that brings us back to childhood woundings and the working out of all of those traumas that are so deeply embedded. So there's so much of that that maybe people have been experiencing on these deep, even unconscious levels of just releasing and clearing and crying and, not even necessarily always knowing intellectually what we are letting go of. And then there's this eighth gate, which in the shamanic astrology paradigm, this is Daniel Giamario, and his conception of that eighth gate is death by intent. So there's this other layer of beyond just all the things that I don't know about what I'm releasing and what I'm surrendering, who I thought I was, what I thought life was about. Now it's like, and I love the resonance with Aries here because Aries loves to get super clear and be intentional. But it's like, okay, and what is there left? How can I intend to surrender even more my life force, my will for what I think my life is supposed to be about, and that there's this other higher dimension that is calling me forward, calling me into my mission, my purpose. And it feels like a laying down and a letting go of whatever small sense of my own personal will or control of what I think that is, and saying consciously, yeah, like intentionally, that I surrender that to this higher self, to this higher will, to this higher intelligence, however we name that for ourselves in our life, that that is guiding and directing our steps. So that
Yeah. Ooh, I feel that so deeply because that's
is
the surrender into trust. Like, what are we
trust.
surrendering to? We're surrendering to divine trust.
Yes.
My favorite spiritual teacher, my beloved spiritual
Mhm.
teacher, Tosha Silver, speaks so much to that, trusting the divine surrender. And you were talking about the will and our personal will, and like where we can get kind of stuck in, like, I want it to be this way, but
Yes.
divine will, or
Yes.
like the overarching picture of what's best for all. And that's a Pisces belief too, like what's
Yeah.
best for everyone. If we can
Yeah.
bring that into this Aries energy of, I'm going to do what's best for all, knowing that best for me first
Yeah.
and everyone else. And if it's best for me and it's not hurting everyone else, then we know it's in this like divine will. And there's so much in the world that is seemingly imperfect. And we were talking about that before we got on the video, because it's
Yeah.
okay to
Yeah.
surrender being perfect.
Yeah.
It's okay to surrender any of the mess that we think that is messing things up, when
Yeah.
really it is divine. We have to go through the deconstruction and the mess and the release and all of that. So
Yeah.
that's what I feel the passion for, and I'm excited to
Mhm.
feel that energy shift.
I love that. I love that. And that feels like the Pisces energy and what we're remembering and bringing with us
Yeah.
from this Piscean age. And I feel like that came through really strong to me as well. Like we're leaving behind so much of the Piscean age and the sort of religious paradigms that have held us. And yet we're bringing with us this sense of the spiritual and of the importance of divine grace and unconditional love and compassion and a spiritual love of humanity. And we certainly aren't letting that go as we maybe are
Right. That was
shedding,
valuable. Yeah.
yes, as
Yeah.
we are shedding the distorted ways that that became institutionalized and all of that, we surely are bringing with us. And I do feel like this Neptunian energy and this next Venus cycle in Pisces is here to remind us that we still are longing for, you know, going back to what you were saying about Pisces longing for these altered states of devotion and surrender to this higher love and sense of being held. But what we're bringing back into that is the feminine face of that, the feminine face of
Right.
spirit and of spirituality. And that's why I love the Venus blueprint, because we get to talk about and we get to play with the idea of how the feminine consciousness is coming back online and coming back in to help heal some of the rifts and the splits and the distortions, and to empower ourselves as these new versions of the feminine.
Yeah.
And yeah, how are we going to do that with beautiful, transcendent, beautiful, mystic Pisces? And how are we going to do that with I know what I'm here for, mission oriented, warrior goddess, Aries energy? And how
Yes.
can we all embody that for ourselves, and get to play with that together? So that's what we are inviting women into. That's what we are creating our community around. And we're so excited to be calling in that sisterhood.
Yes. Thank you for bringing in the playfulness and the fun and joy of us connecting to our sisterhood. And we're so excited to have our circle on Wednesday as well and invite everyone into that. And the last thing you definitely wanted to talk about, and let's honor bringing that feminine into the Pisces energy, because that age of Pisces and the way that the world has been structured for the last 2000 years, we are just happen to be at Easter weekend as
I
well.
was just going to say, like, oh, wait a second. Thank
And
you.
I want to, and because you said it in the way that you did, remember the goddess Ostara, and we are at that spring initiation. And this is the energy where all the eggs, like, why did we have eggs? Why do we Easter egg hunt
Right.
on a religious holiday that has nothing to do with that? It's because that's the pagan earth connection to the ancient rituals of renewal and springtime. And yeah. So that's like bringing the feminine, the egg of the seed of the wisdom. Yeah.
Yes. And the egg is also the symbol of Mary Magdalene and her contribution to the Paschal mystery that we're honoring today, that it's Good Friday today, and we're honoring this deep mystery of death and rebirth. And we're honoring, yes, also Mary Magdalene's role in that journey and that understanding. And there's so much to explore there. And I'm glad you brought that in, because I do feel like at that eighth gate, you know, and here we are in Good Friday. And it's like the most, you know, the words that we all have heard and know, but to almost think about them in a new way, like not my will be done, but thy will be done. And the death
Divine will.
process, thy will. What did I say?
No, you did. The
Oh,
just
yes.
divine will. Like
Yes.
that's exactly what we're
Yes.
talking about.
That's exactly what we were talking about. But in a way that honors the feminine participation in that mystery, and all of the integration that we're here to bring into that. But what a beautiful juxtaposition of the eighth gate to be around this Easter season. And I mean,
I'm
that's
like, you
incredible.
can't make this
Yeah,
stuff up, right?
I
Like when
know.
you
It's really beautiful.
have
Yeah.
amazing shifts happen in your life and you're like, oh, it was aligned to, the last one for me was that Venus Mars conjunction, and we talked about that last month. So we
Yeah.
will keep you all updated, and we make these videos so that we can really dive in and give you the full blueprint energy before going into circle with us. So we're going to bring in the ritual and that feeling of sitting in ceremony together, calling in the divine energies from all the directions and being in our center together and in the feminine wisdom of the circle. So I can't wait to sit with you in circle on Wednesday.
Oh, likewise, always such a joy, so much fun. Can't wait to see who we call in to play in this energy with us together.
Yes, come play with us. And if you enjoyed watching this video, please like and subscribe, share it with your sisterhood, and invite in the women to join us on Zoom Wednesday evenings, 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 start time Eastern. And you can find us on Instagram. And we are the Mage Sisters. So we are teaching the Venus Blueprint astrology and circling together for this remembrance of the ancient wisdom that we carry within our bodies. We need this feminine body wisdom to be shared and brought and held in together. So thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you for the eclipse on the new moon. All right.
Well, thank
Bye.
you.
Mhm.